The Department of Foreign Affairs has belied the criticisms that they have not yet implemented the Hague ruling in the West Philippine Sea. Here's Nel Maribuhok to tell us why.
The Senate committee is now deliberating the 27.4 billion peso proposed budget of the Department of Foreign Affairs. Some senators once again questioned the foreign policy of the administration and how the government will resolve the maritime issues in the West Philippine Sea. According to DFA Secretary Alan Peter Cayetano, the administration has already implemented some of the provisions of the Hague ruling contrary to criticisms.
What the Hague ruling said is that we have fishery rights, and we're now enforcing that. What it said is that we have rights of safety at life at the seas. We're now enforcing that.
The Secretary also defended the plan of the Philippines and China to conduct joint exploration in the West Philippine Sea.
So if we can get the oil and gas in that area and follow the 60-40 of Malampaya and follow the Philippine Constitution, then I would argue that it is in fact an implementation of our rights under UNCLOS.
According to the Secretary, it is possible that in the coming months, they will be able to release the legal framework of the proposed joint oil and gas exploration of the two countries. On the other hand, Senate Minority Leader Franklin Drilon wants to take a second look at the proposed exploration.
There are constitutional implications.
The senators asked the DFA to submit a written briefing regarding the issues in the West Philippine Sea and on the joint exploration. Meanwhile, the DFA asked the senators for a closed-door meeting to discuss sensitive issues on the said matter. Nel Maribuhok, UNTV News and Rescue, Senate of the Philippines.
The Philippine Constitution bars the installation of nuclear weapons anywhere within the country's territory. Therefore, according to Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana, a nuclear facility in the West Philippine Sea will definitely constitute a violation of the law. This was his response to the concerns of the United States government on the possibility that China might establish its nuclear weapon on its artificial islands in the West Philippine Sea. Lorenzana adds that since the Philippines has no plans of attacking China, the latter has no reason to establish such armament. The Secretary says all issues pertaining to the territorial dispute in the West Philippine Sea are encouraged to proceed in a peaceful manner, so there is no reason for China to militarize the said territory. If, in case the Chinese government pushes through with a nuclear facility in the West Philippine Sea, Lorenzana says the Philippines will take every legal action to counter it. Newly appointed Chief Justice Teresita de Castro shrugs off the impeachment complaint lodged against her at the lower house, saying she does not have time to get distracted. May Bermudez tells us why.
With less than 2 months left in the judiciary, Chief Justice Teresita de Castro says she has no time to think about the ouster complaint filed by opposition lawmakers against her. Speaking to the media for the first time as Chief Justice, de Castro says she needs to focus on her duty as the new Chief of the Supreme Court because she only has few weeks in office. She's due to retire from service early in October when she reaches the mandatory retirement age of 70.
I have no time to think about it because as you mentioned, I have very few weeks to work here in court, and I do not want it to be distracted by anything else. So my schedule is full. I have so many activities set these coming days.
De Castro also denies allegations that her position was a reward for her efforts in the ouster of her predecessor Maria Lourdes Sereno or for her controversial decisions such as favoring the declaration of martial law in Mindanao and allowing the interment of late President Ferdinand Marcos to dalibingan ng mga bayani despite public outrage.
I think we should all move on and work together for the good of our judiciary. I think they should look at my record. I've been in government for 45 years now, and by the time I retire, I would have served 45 years and 8 months in government. I think people should just look at my track record, my service, long service in the judiciary.
De Castro officially assumed her duties as Chief Justice today as she presided over the en banc session and the oral arguments on the petition questioning the Philippines' withdrawal from the Rome Statute of the International Criminal Court. Given her limited time in office, De Castro vows to push for reforms in SC such as strengthening the institution's information and case management system. After Sereno's appointment as Chief Justice was nullified in May this year, De Castro is now the first woman Chief Justice of the SC and has the shortest term among the chief magistrates as she only has 42 days to serve. She's retiring on October 8, 2018.
Whatever legacy I may leave behind when I retire is not the product of 2 months or weeks. I've been working on this for many years already. In fact, even when the position of Chief Justice was beyond my imagination, I was already working on many projects which I want to be done when I retire.
Mai Bermudez, UNTV News and Rescue, Supreme Court.
House Justice Committee Chairperson Congressman Salvador Liachon believes that the impeachment complaint filed against Supreme Court Chief Justice Teresita de Castro would be deemed moot and academic should her retirement precede the resolution of the proceedings at the lower house. De Castro's stint as SC Top Justice will be brief as she is due to retire on October 8. Last August 23, opposition lawmakers filed impeachment complaints against De Castro and other SC justices Diosdado Peralta, Lucas Bersamin, Francis Hardalesa, and Noel Tiham, Andres Reyes Jr. and Alexander Gesmundo, who voted to oust Chief Justice Maria Lourdes Sereno through a co-warranty petition. Congressman Liachon says that once the impeachment complaint against De Castro is rendered moot and academic, this will not affect the impeachment raps filed against 6 other SC justices.
The timeline is all scheduled and all set under, everything is set under the rules. Now, if the retirement of the Chief Justice would proceed before the termination of the case, then definitely the case against her would be moot and academic, because the primary objective of the impeachment is removal of any person from public office.
Malacanang sees nothing wrong with the plan of President Duterte to bring with him several military and police officials to his visit to Israel next month. Rosalie Cos explains why.
President Rodrigo Duterte wants to bring along with him some military and police officers when he visits Israel in September. The chief executive revealed this during the National Heroes Day commemoration rites in Taguig on Monday.
Ay kung operahan nila ang utak ko doon, di mas maganda. Wala bang problema?
Thank you.
No, I would be going there with some of the retiring military and police officers. Marami kami. That is my gift to them for serving the country well. Makipag-practice doon sa Sinai ng barilan.
But Senator Panfilo Lacson questions Duterte's plan, saying the presidential trip abroad must have a purpose better than just being a gift given to the officers and personnel of the government. In response, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque says there's nothing wrong with it as the trip aims to enhance the bilateral cooperation with their counterparts, particularly in combating extremism and terrorism.
Obviously, for security personnel, a trip to Israel would entail collaborating and mingling with security forces of Israel in order for our men in uniform to benefit from the experience of Israel, particularly in their drive against extremism and terrorism.
Malacanang also clarifies that President Duterte will be bringing with him active military and police personnel and that the government will shoulder the expenses.
So it was cost-benefit, and of course the benefit outweighs the cost.
Malacanang assures the funds set to be spent will not be wasted. Rosalie Cos, UNTV News and Rescue, Malacanang.
The Senate approves on third and final reading today several important measures. These include the bill sponsored by Senator Panfilo Lacson that seeks to push the police force's internal cleansing by transferring the training of police recruits to to the Philippine National Police. Once the bill becomes a law, the PNP Academy will be under the direct control of the PNP chief, while the supervision of the National Police Training Institute will be determined in the revised organizational structure of the said unit. The Senate also approves today a bill allowing the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas to regulate all payment systems in the country. The bill aims to promote secure and reliable payment systems to control systemic risk to the growth of the economy. The Senate also gives a nod to a bill which seeks to declare the Filipino Sign Language as an official medium of instruction and mode of communication to promote the rights of deaf persons.
Meanwhile, President Duterte appoints Ronald Giancarlo Cardema as a new chairperson of the National Youth Commission. Cardema will replace Carissa Isa Sigera, who resigned from her post last March. Cardema, a native of Calamba City, a military reservist and former House Political Affairs Officer, will have a term of 3 years. President Duterte also appoints Davao-based lawyer Alexis Lumbatan as a new member of the Energy Regulatory Commission until July 2025. Lumbatan replaces Gloria Taruk, who retired last July 10. The Department of Tourism conducted a tourism crisis management symposium in Iloilo City today. Vincent Arboleda will tell us why.
For the first time, a regional tourism crisis management symposium was conducted by the Department of Tourism Region 6 and the Tourism Regulation, Coordination and Resource Generation in Iloilo City earlier today. 116 representatives from the local government units, tourism offices, non-government organization, and the private sector in Western Visayas attended the symposium.
Gusto naton nga mahatagan sila sang preparasyon o kung mga knowledge man nga kung ano ang ila himuon para nga mangin preparado sila sa mga krisis kag ano ang ila dapat mahibaluan para nga ma-manage nila ang mga crisis na matabo.
The Tourism Department also mentioned the risk factors that may result in a crisis situation in the tourism industry, such as political turmoil, economic instabilities, social disturbances, technological attacks, and environmental hazards. According to the Department of Tourism, the Philippines was able to generate 20.25 trillion pesos from the tourism industry, or equal to 20% of the country's gross domestic product. Boracay Island alone earned around 14 billion pesos last year brought by tourism. But because of various violations and environmental concerns, the island was closed to tourists last April 26, which resulted in the displacement of thousands of workers in the island and affecting the livelihood of more than 11,000 residents. Through Tourism Crisis Management Symposium, DOT6 aims to create a tourism crisis management plan for Western Visayas that could be used by stakeholders to prevent Boracay closure from happening again, nor for it to happen to other tourist destinations in the region.
Without a management system, we only try to address the issues in a limited period of time. After a while, if we don't come up with a system, we would still be doing the same after 2 or 3 years from now.
The DOT is hopeful that through the Tourism Crisis Management Plan, stakeholders will be given capability to support the growing tourism in Western Visayas despite crises that may likely happen in the region. Vincent Arboleda, UNTV News and Rescue, Iloilo.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas stated that despite the current inflation that the country is facing, there is still financial stability. Charlie Barredo will tell us why.
In the press briefing at the Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas today, the country's central bank issued a financial stability report for the year 2017. BSP Assistant Governor Dr. Johnny Noe Ravalo stressed that despite inflation, the Philippines' financial stability is competent. He reiterated that the country's financial state is satisfactory, let alone if one will consider that the global markets have been more volatile.
When you put the Philippine financial market in the context of how the banking, capital market, insurance sector, as well as the non-financial corporations have fared, we're doing okay.
Ravalo added that the release of the report was also relevant due to the fact that it is the first public release for the Philippines. The report revealed the BSP's own assessment of the brewing and systemic risks in the market. The assistant governor said that these risks can challenge the integrity of the financial market as a whole. Ravalo also underscored that these risks could lead to a crisis.
So much so that it could lead to a crisis similar to an Asian financial crisis or a global financial crisis.
Ravalo also emphasized that there are 3 issues that are worth further monitoring and that the country needs to be proactive and certain adjustments need to be made. These are the credit markets, financial technology, and the ASEAN integration. Charlie Barredo, UNTV News and Rescue, Philippines.
Some of the world's most highly regarded climate change experts will appear as witnesses in the ongoing hearings by the Commission on Human Rights on the responsibility of 47 fossil fuel companies on the global climate crisis. Cathy Maglalang will tell us why.
Some of the world's top climate experts will testify tomorrow in the investigation of the Commission on Human Rights on the 47 multinational fossil fuel companies. This is the 3rd series of the hearing to investigate the companies such as the ExxonMobil, Shell, BP, Chevron, ConocoPhillips, Suncor, and Repsol about the worsening climate change and its impact on people's lives. It can be recalled that different environmental groups and advocates filed a petition in 2015 before the CHR against the said companies. According to Richard Head, co-founder and director of Climate Accountability Institute in the United States and principal investigator of Carbon Majors projects, the CHR is taking a bold step with its inquiry on how the products of the 47 major companies have changed the global atmosphere and the company's potential accountability for violating human rights of Filipinos. He said the study published in 2013 found that nearly 2/3 of carbon dioxide emitted since the 1750s will be routed from 90 companies, including the companies being investigated by CHR.
Well, their emissions are slowly growing, and in some companies, these corporations provide millions of barrels worth of fuel to the global market economies. But it's in the impacts and the severe weather and extreme storms over the last several years.
He added that these companies have known for decades that their products would cause climate-related harm to the nations around the globe, yet did little to minimize the risk, and apparently preferring to protect profits over people. The principal investigator further said the inquiry should serve as a warning to fossil fuel producers to reduce emissions of carbon dioxide.
Corporations do have a responsibility to respect human rights, that they must be transparent, disclose what they know about the risks associated with their products and their business activities, and take action to prevent any sort of harms.
Some of the community witnesses and petitioners will also attend the hearing.
Hindi naman nililista yung damage yung nasira mong mga gamit. Ang nalilista lang naman sa damage yung agrikultura, marami, infrastructure. Hindi naman binabayaran ng gobyerno yung nasisira sa bawat pamilya.
We're calling on all of these companies to actually transform their business model. We're not asking them to close their business.
On Wednesday and Thursday, the experts will present their published research findings into the industry's contribution to climate change. The next series of hearings will take place in New York on September 27 to 28, after the consultations in Manila and London. Cathy Maglalang, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Several lawmakers have raised their concerns over the possible impact of budget cuts as the lower house deliberates on the proposed 2019 budget of the Department of Trade and Industry. Monok Son tells us why.
During today's deliberation of the 2019 proposed national budget, lawmakers have questioned the capacity of the Department of Trade and Industry to perform with a very low budget. Under the proposal, DTI will only get around 5.2 billion peso budget to fund its projects for the next fiscal year. This is a far cry from the agency's 19 billion peso budget for 2018. 6 million pesos was slashed from the Consumer Protection Group's budget, while the Shared Service Facility Program gets zilch. ACT Party List Representative Antonio Thio says slashing the budget for the most important division in the Trade Department is not reasonable.
Ano ba yung mas mahalaga? Sinasabi nila yung build, yung suporta para sa mga infrastructure projects na ang pangunahing makikinabang yung mga malalaking corporation. Pero yung ordinaryong mamamayan, whether consumer whether yung mga workers no na namomroblema sa mababang sweldo at endo, mga government employees, binawasan ng budget para sa mga ito.
DTI Secretary Mon Lopez admits the 2019 budget cuts will affect programs that assist small entrepreneurs like the Shared Service Facility. The program aims to lend equipment to help small enterprises operate their businesses.
So sayang lang, may mga SMEs na of course hindi matutulungan sa mga equipment nila. So yun yun, mga forgone opportunities ba?
Secretary Lopez says this is a big challenge for them, especially since surging inflation remains an issue in the country.
Yun ang challenge nga natin, no? So mas demanding ang pangangailangan sa ekonomiya, pero mas maliit yung budget, pero we will work around that budget.
DTI explains that though their budget for next year was cut, there are still other alternative programs that the public can avail. These are the P3 program that will lend the capital for small entrepreneurs and the Go Local program that promotes locally made products. Mon Hocson, UNTV News and Rescue, House of Representatives.
Senator Laila de Lima is seeking an inquiry on the alleged 1 billion peso unclaimed cash grants under the government's Pantawid Pamilyang Pilipino program. In a resolution, de Lima is urging the Senate Committee on Social Justice, Welfare and Rural Development to probe the delays in the withdrawal of the 1.3 billion pesos worth of cash grants. The Commission on Audit said in its 2017 report that the grants were not claimed by its supposed beneficiaries in 2017 for a ranging period from 30 to 2,190 days after payout. The senator says the inquiry will determine the attributing factors on the failure to withdraw the cash grants. Malacanang just shrugs off the latest complaint filed against President Rodrigo Duterte before the International Criminal Court in relation to his war on drugs. Joan Nano tells us why.
President Rodrigo Duterte is again facing a lawsuit over his administration's alleged human rights violations in line with his campaign against illegal drugs. Through the National Union of People's Lawyers, surviving families of victims of drug-related killings and Rise of for Life and Rights filed a communication and complaint against President Duterte to the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court on Tuesday for committing crimes against humanity. The group alleged that the 4,410 deaths under the Duterte administration's banner program Oplan Double Barrel and its succeeding versions and his very own public pronouncements inciting the killings are more than enough proof of the widespread and systematic attacks against civilians.
Si President Duterte, ang alegasyon sa complaint na ito, is personally liable for ordering state security forces like the police para mag-commit ng mass murder sa buong Pilipinas in line with his policy of extrajudicial killings dito sa kampanya niya laban sa droga.
The group says they have decided to elevate the matter to the ICC because of the president's immunity to prosecution in Philippine courts and the families are losing confidence in the local justice system. They hope that the ICC will take immediate action on their call to prosecute Duterte for his crimes against the people, especially the poor. Asked about the complaint, Malacanang True Presidential Spokesperson Harry Roque on Tuesday believes the communication does not mean anything and so it won't prosper.
Again, my fearless prediction is it will not prosper dahil nga po dun sa konsepto ng complementarity. Hindi po dapat gumalaw ang ICC unless local courts have proven to be unable or unwilling to exercise jurisdiction on these complaints.
Joan Nano, UNTV News and Rescue, Quezon City.
Young aspiring singers in Visayas proves their talents once more in Wishcovery Edition held in Cebu. Leslie Longboan tells us why.
Apart from rich history and beautiful tourist attractions, Visayas boasts of talented people whom Wish 1075 aims to discover.
auditionees are visually impaired twins, Christian and Christopher Faelnar, who want to give inspiration to talented persons with disability.
Sa mga meron din kapansanan tulad ko, don't give up reaching your dreams.
Huwag natin gawing kahinaan ang ating kapansanan. Bagkus, gawin natin itong lakas, parang gasolina, motivation natin.
Programming student Angeline Pancho also proved she can belt out a song despite having a disability.
Ipakita sa buong mundo na kahit may disability ako na cleft palate, ay may talento akong ganito.
From Tacloban City, Jofet Osena crossed an island for 6 hours to reach the audition site.
Sa iyo sinta na puso'y harina ng iba.
Thank you so much sa mga taong nasa likod ng contest na to. Binigyan kami ng mga opportunity na mas ipakita namin sa maraming tao yung talent na binigay sa amin ng Panginoon.
The Wish Covery team will travel next to Northern Luzon for the open mic audition at the Robinson's Place, Pangasinan on September 4. Leslie Longboan, UNTV News and Rescue, Mandaue, Cebu.